This is Language Mantra channel. Today is session 30, Basic English course. Today, who's there? Please come in. Mr. Past Perfect. So let me introduce Mr. Past Perfect to you. A perfect gentleman, well behaved, well mannered, and well defined. Once you see him, you recognize him. One thing more, you know his son. Mr. Present Perfect. It is better to describe Mr. Present Perfect and Past Perfect together. See the commonness and uncommonness. So what is the common element there? In these two tense formats, the action of the verb takes place in the past time, both in the present perfect tense and in the past perfect tense. Now, the difference. Present perfect tense has one line of action. That means one verb is operating. Whereas, in the past perfect tense, there are two lines of actions. That means two verbs are operating in the past tense. But not, simultaneously. Action of one verb completes, then action of another verb begins in the past perfect tense. What about the relationship? In the present perfect tense, the relationship is between the past action and present relevance of the action. Whereas in the past perfect tense, the relationship is established between the first action and the second action. Both are taking place in the past time. So this is the theoretical part of past perfect tense. That is, there would be two actions, one completes, another begins, but both the verbs act in the past tense. This is number one. Number two, you can easily recognize, you can see that two verbs or two actions are openly stated in the sentence, and if not stated, it is so easy you can easily understand it from the context. So all about the theoretical part of the verb. So let's see the formation. Formation is very simple. If you know the formation of the present perfect tense, past perfect tense formation is almost the same, except has and have will be replaced by had. Let's see. Subject, I had. Have, past tense had. I had, then past participle form of the verb. I have gone, I had gone. In the past perfect tense, it would be I had gone. But this part would be followed by another sentence. That part does not come within the formula of past perfect tense. That would be treated as either simple past or past continuous tense. So this is all about this tense. Now we have to see some examples when this particular form of tense is used and what is the sentence structure there, and this is the thing we are going to see in the next part of this video. Now let's verify certain examples and clarify certain doubts. It is not always necessary to use past perfect tense even if there are past actions taking place. For example, I went to the station, I booked my ticket, then I had a cup of coffee. Here we don't use past perfect tense. So where should we use past perfect tense? Now, this is necessary to use past perfect tense in cases where there is a kind of reference to that time sequence, one thing taking after another. That reference is there implied or say stated, and there must be some sort of logical and chronological relationship between two actions taking place. Only in those cases we should specifically use past perfect tense. Now let's see some examples. This was not the kind of job I had expected. This was not the kind of job I had expected. Two clauses are there. This was not the kind of job and I had expected. So my expectation and my experience, these two things are different. My expectation first, and then after joining the kind of job, I got the experience. So the first, say action of the remote past will come first. So that is treated as past perfect tense, and the later past action, that is treated as simple past tense, sometimes past continuous tense. Another example, I had studied English before I visited England. So I studied English first and then I visited England. Naturally, the past perfect tense would be here, I had studied English and after that I went to England. One thing one should remember here, we have before here. Before is joining these two clauses together. And there is a standard theory to use past perfect tense before and after. That means you should use past perfect tense before this before. And if you use after, past perfect tense naturally will go after. For example, here we have Jinnah was selling tea after he had lost his office job. So Jinnah is a person's name. He lost his job. That comes first, but we have used after. That's why that past participle format goes after. And Jinnah was selling tea in the past continuous tense, that comes first. Specific time reference may not be possible in present perfect tense, but in the past perfect tense, specific time reference is allowed. We have two references here. Jim had fallen asleep before 10 o'clock. We can understand that before 10 o'clock is not a clause, but we understand it. It is very easy to understand that it should be before it was 10 o'clock. So two clauses are there, either stated or understood. Here it is understood. So first part, Jim had fallen asleep. He fallen asleep before 10. So 10 is a reference to time. Number two, I had never tried roasted chicken until last week. I had never tried roasted chicken until last week. So it is last week that I tasted chicken. Before that I didn't do it. So what I didn't do it, that comes first. That is remote past. That's why I had never tried roasted chicken until last week. First issue, that means paster issue comes first and the less past issue comes later. This is so simple. Now, to show cause and effect situation, this is another area of application. Sometimes there is some cause and then it has its effect. So this is called cause and effect relationship. So if there is stated cause and effect relationship and in the past tense, it is possible to treat the sentence in terms of past perfect tense. See examples. It had rained last night. It had rained last night. So the temperature dropped, quite natural. Rained first and then temperature dropped. So this is past perfect tense and this is in the simple past. Jinnah was selling tea after he had lost his office. We have already referred to this sentence. Jinnah had an office job. He lost it first and then he began to sell tea. What's selling tea in the past continuous tense? Maybe a period of time is being referred to here. That's why instead of simple past, here it is past continuous tense. Now, to show emotion, dissatisfaction, type 3 conditional sentences. Conditional sentences normally begin with if, and it is if clause sentence, sometimes it is said. So if clause, then regret hypothetical conditions that could have been, would have been, should have been done but did not take place. In those cases, past perfect tense is a very handy resource to express. Let's see. We wished we had booked for the football match. We wished we had booked for the football match. Fact is that we did not book, but at the time of the game we went there, we didn't get any, say ticket, and we realized that we have done some blunder. That's why it is said that we wished, desire is expressed, and dissatisfaction is expressed, regret is expressed. We wished we had booked for the football match. We had booked. That means we should have. I would have married you. I didn't marry you, but I would have married you if you had not lied to me. So what happens here? Somebody lied, man or a woman lied to his or her partner. That's why the marriage could not take place. So what happened past? That action of lying. If you had not lied to me, I would have married you. This way it is possible. You can bring this one first, and I would have married you can be placed later. There is no problem. So condition is there. This is hypothetical situation that I would have married you if you had not lied. Since you had lied first, that comes in the past perfect tense. Now, reported and indirect speech. This is a little bit typical and it needs a separate session. But for the time being, I just give you an idea. Reported speech and indirect speech is not the speech that is exactly told by a speaker. It is reported by somebody else. In newspaper, you will find things are being reported. It is not your speech. The party who is speaking, that speech is not here. Somebody else tries to report that speech and make a summary of that. In that case, sometimes we use past perfect tense. For example, the police asked if we had seen any person on the run. The police asked if we had seen any person on the run. Police did not ask this. This was the language of the police. Have you seen any person on the run? But when I say, or we say, or anybody says, tries to report that police's person, he speaks like this. The police asked if we had seen any person on the run. My parents told they had been married for 10 years before my birth. Now, before my birth, I have already told you, this is actually before I was born will be the full sentence, but here in shortened form, before my birth. This is translated by me. Why? Because my parents told we have been married for 10 years before your birth. This was the version of my parents. What did they say? They said we have been married for 10 years before your birth. But I am speaking what my father told in a different version. This different verses is reported speech or indirect speech. My father's speech, my mother's speech that is directly spoken to me is direct speech. But when I report that speech to somebody else, it becomes reported speech. So this is all that we have. Take care. It is often said that past perfect tense is very difficult. It may not be so. Past perfect tense is very clean and very well defined. Therefore, you need not to worry about past perfect tense. Just see that there are two past actions, one after another, and there is some sort of sequence of time reference. Use past perfect tense. So this is all that we have to discuss today. Just remember these words: before, after, when, just, already, ever, never, etc. This come very frequently with this form of verb. You see the video in full as many times as required. Until you understand, you should see it. So please do that. If you have any query, please write to us. Thank you very much.